Welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. My name is Cindy D. Whitmer, and I am the Midlife Makeover Coach, helping you turn your midlife into your best life, one step at a time. Through powerful conversations, my own midlife roller coaster story, and over 3 decades of helping people transform their lives through counseling and coaching, I am on a mission to help you create your own definition of success and happiness. Thank you for being here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, recently I was having a conversation with a client, and we were talking about, rigidity and flexibility. Sometimes when we struggle in life to be flexible, it's because we have certain beliefs about how things need to look or sound or play out in our lives. We have rules in our heads, or we have beliefs in our heads about how things are meant to be and to go. And that can often cause us suffering, especially when it relates to people's behavior. For example, many of us think that family, just the word family itself, is loaded up with certain rules and expectations. Like maybe you've believed that all families should gather together for the holidays, or kids should always live within a certain radius of their parents once they grow up because families meant to be close and live closely together. Or some people are, really heavily against divorce and believes that that is not an option, even if a marriage is really unhappy or abusive. Um, there's just all kinds of ways that we can get rigid as people in our lives. And I think sometimes the more anxious a person feels, more of a worrier that they are, then the more rigid they can get, because that rigidity makes them feel like they have control over their environment and things, which is, of course, is an illusion. We do not have control of other people or everything around us or whatever, but we can control the thoughts in our mind and the choices that we make ourselves. Well, anyway, when we were having this conversation, she mentioned that she had learned about sway bars recently. Sway bars. And in case you don't know what those are, I thought this was just like gold to hear this because I love metaphors. But sway bars are put in buildings. When tall buildings are built, they use sway bar because that is going to give the building just a little flexibility if there's strong winds. So it can just move a little bit with the strong wind, because, of course, if it's too rigid, then a wind could actually break it, right? So this is a lot like trees, right? Trees are really strong, but yet they often just bend with the wind, right? Now, sometimes winds get so strong, of course, in some storms, thunderstorms, hurricanes, whatever, uh, tornadoes, that trees break, they snap, and so forth. And I understand that. But most of the time, with most kind of regular weather that's not extreme, you'll just see trees swaying in the wind, or their branches kind of floating or swaying in the wind, because even though they're very strong and they have a strong foundation, they're flexible. They go with the flow of what's happening around them. And so I thought to myself, oh gosh, we kind of need to be like trees and like tall buildings, that because both are built very strong, right? They have a strong foundation, and yet they can move when circumstances need them to be a little more flexible and not so rigid and break. So I've experienced this in my life in all kinds of ways, as I'm sure you have as well. Like, it was as a parent, for example, when I was raising my children, I thought it was super duper duper important for me to raise them to do their very best academically and do their very best in any activities that they chose to participate in. Like, I thought that was super important, right? And so I would push that agenda. I would push, like, you always need to attend practice. We're never going to skip a school day. Don't skip classes, always show up, always get your homework done, always turn it in on time, do your best, do your best, do your best, do your best. I just really, really, uh, pushed that value and agenda on them while they were growing up. And many of you would probably say, well, yeah, we did too. And we don't know, none of us teach our kids to be slackers, right? But the reason I bring that up is because that I'm wondering now if that was an example of me having a really rigid view of how, kids are supposed to grow up or how students are supposed to show up or whatever. And I'm kind of that way with myself, right? I kind of have had this attitude my whole life that, if I'm going to invest in doing something, if I'm going to, go down a professional path, or if I'm going to involve myself in an organization or whatever, I'm not going to half do it. Like, I'm going to dive in, you know, heavily, right? And do my very best as much as possible all the time. And, you know, I mean, again, there's positives to approaching life with our best selves or always wanting to be on top of our game or whatever. But the negative part of it, in my view, now as a 56-year-old woman, is like, you know what? Maybe I took life too seriously. Maybe I was a little too hard on myself. Maybe I pushed a little too hard with the kids and different things or whatever. Maybe I've been too rigid to have as playful and fun of his life as I could have up until I got more relaxed about things, right? So another way to look at this is in our relationships with other people and how we expect them to show up. The word expectation right there is a form of rigidity, right? And we've all got expectations of people that we love and live with or are in relationships with, right? And so, I'll use my husband as an example, my husband and I, because we're kind of funny how we're different. So he's an engineer. So he's very wise about, things that I am not wise about. Like my strength is emotional intelligence, human behavior, psychology, and I would say spiritual, the spiritual part of life, that kind of thing. And he is really wise with, physics and science and how things work and how things tick and how to fix everything and how to run everything best to make it work, in the maximum way and all this stuff. Right. So when I moved in with him and, I've married him and so forth, I, when I, here's an example. So when I think it's time to do laundry is when the clothes are dirty, right? um, and of course that's when he wants laundry done too. It's when his clothes are dirty. That's when he does his laundry, right? But he's taught me that there are times of day where the temperature is best to run a washer and a dryer to save the most energy, that kind of thing. And I thought, oh wow, that's really I've never heard of such a thing before. Like, I just didn't know that. And so I thought, he would say to me, like, oh, why don't you wait until, 3 o'clock this afternoon to do the laundry, or wait till Saturday when the temperatures are going to be this to do the laundry. And I thought, he's insane. What is he talking about? I'm just going to get the laundry done when I can get the laundry done. And so I thought he was rigid, right? I thought he was inflexible, but what it is that he's just really wise and he's trying to go with the flow of when it's best for things to work the most efficiently. And I was more the rigid one, just thinking, well, I just want to do it when I want to do it. So it's so fascinating, right? And when we do laundry is no big deal in life, right? But it just reminds me of how we all have ideas about how things should be done, when things should be done, and in what way, and that kind of thing. Um, so as you're moving through your life these days, and you're making decisions about how you show up in relationships or what you're expecting in your relationships or how you live your life and how you go through about your days and your tasks and your responsibilities and your choices and all those things. I want you to notice when you are feeling like there's only one way, you know, and it's yours. Okay. Like there's only, and check your beliefs, because like for some people, maybe there's only one way that the government should run, or there's only one way that religion should be expressed, or there's only one way to be a good employee, or there's only one way to be a good whatever, a good wife, a good mother, a good friend, a good neighbor, a good president, a good CEO of a company, a good business owner, a good, whatever you are, a good baker, a good teacher, a good, whatever you're doing, a good business owner, whatever. And then expand. I would encourage you to expand your vision of what that means. Like there are lots and lots and lots and lots of good ways to have a really good friendship with someone, right? There's lots and lots of ways to express your love for God if you believe in God. There are lots of ways to run a household. There are lots of ways to run a business. There are lots of ways to have a healthy body and take really good care of yourself. There's lots of ways to manage difficulties in relationships. So I would just, if you're really uncomfortable with how, other people are doing things or what you see going on in the world in some cases, and you just think, oh my, these people are weird or what's wrong with them, you might just go, well, wait, people are different. We all have different ways of doing things. And we don't have to agree or disagree. We can just go, okay, this is how I do things, but I can see how there are other ways to do things that work really, really well. There's lots of ways to have a great life. It's not just one recipe. So let's be more like the trees, right? Let's be more like the trees and, be strong at our core and willing to go with the flow at times when things aren't exactly how, what our vision might be for something. And just see how that brings more ease to your life and more peace to your life, and perhaps even more joy to your life, having that more relaxed approach. And yeah, so gosh, I hope that's a helpful concept for you. Of course, I feel compelled to say before I leave too that of course there are things that are deal breakers for us all, and these are boundaries or standards or things that we will not budge on, and that's okay too. If you're not harming yourself or harming anyone else with your boundaries or your standards, that's just great. You keep those. I'm not asking you to compromise your strong values and standards for your life. I am just asking you to expand your vision, especially if you're unhappy or you're finding yourself feeling uptight or anxious about how other people are, and just expand your vision to grow a greater understanding of other people and other ways of doing things or other ways of looking at things, even if you're not going to adopt them for yourself, and see how that helps maybe you work with other people at work a little easier, or live a little in less conflict with people you live with, or just enjoy your life more and feel greater ease. So that's what I have to share today. And if you want to chat with me, tell me what's going on in your life, and get some support from me, I love doing that. So let's have a conversation. Just go to timewithcindy.com and we will get together and you can tell me what's going on. And I'd love to support you. So timewithcindy.com, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Life Makeovers podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with those that you think would also benefit from what we're doing here. And I will talk to you again soon.